It's a book meant only for heroes whose hearts are righteous. The book lies at the top of a Mount Cragdor, guarded by a manly minotaur. Seriously? Here it is. I'd been obsessed with the idea of making a notebook from scratch for a long time, and when I saw this book in Adventure Time, I realized the moment had come. I took 2 pieces of leatherette for the cover, 2 sheets of brown cotton for the flyleaf, 2 pieces of thick cotton for the cover, which are actually 2 stiff cardboards, lots of sheets of paper, which I had already dyed with the help of coffee, paints, ribbons, rhinestones, and some more pieces of thick cotton, scissors, threads, glue, and some stationery stuff like pencils, rulers, the need for which you understand only in the process of work. Before making a notebook, I printed a picture of Enchiridion just the size I wanted it to be, and this picture will come in handy to me many times. I started with the cover, for which I used stiff cardboard as a basis. Some space should be left between them for the spine, and then I glued the cotton on the brown leatherette. On the original book, one of the corners is damaged, that's why I cut a bit the second piece of cotton there, and left the space without a layer of glue. Then I cut off extra pieces and began to glue the edges, starting with the corners. While they were drying, to make the situation clear, I had only 2 binder clips to hold the leather. I marked the future size of the spine, cut it out and glued to the leather. To hold the corner till it's dry like this wasn't awesome at all, and then I remembered that closest clips also exist in this world, and the things just moved along faster. While the edges were drying up, I started to stitch the paper. I folded each sheet in half. At first, I wanted to mark the sheets using the cover, but then I remembered that I have one more piece of cotton of the same size, and made some marks for the holes on it, and started to use it as a stencil to avoid marking the same things all over and over again using a ruler. And I didn't mark all the sheets, I stuck 3 pieces together. On top of that, A4 is a bit bigger than the required size, so I marked the cutoff line using the stencil as well. And here is the result. Then I stitched the sheets according to the scheme which I tried to make to show you. I made 3 to 4 stitches for 2 holes, and those threads along the edges I left short without any knots. This is how I stitched the prepared sheets in stack of 3, and then they needed to be tied together. I tied all the side threads from the different sheets together, and those which are in the middle I stitched this way, as you can see in the scheme. I hope it is easy to understand. And actually I have no idea if it's the proper way to stitch the notebook like this, but I think I've seen so somewhere, and to my mind, my notebook is reliably stitched. Finally, we can glue the stitched sheets to the cover. As you can see, I didn't glue the corner where the leather should be damaged. I will use the brown cotton for the flyleaf, as I have already said. Fold the cotton and glue to its place, and the paper to the spine. I take super glue instead of usual glue, because it protects the paper from going wavy. Also, it will fix everything 10 times faster. And yeah, it turned out that I had some extra space here. I will tell you how to fill it later. And now we can make the decor of the cover. It's high time to use the printed picture. I will make the rivets using the cotton and all the other elements using the leather. To make the notebook as accurate as possible, I cut out the elements from the printed picture and used them as a stencil. I cut off the rivets in the same way and did so with the inner elements. First, I made the beige rectangle and then all the small things. In the evening, I cut them out and drew the contour. And then painted all the elements, mixing purple with some other colors. For these corners, I mixed silver with black, blue and purple. As a result, the color is not just grey, but there is something silvery cosmic in it, so unusual, curious and unique. In fact, it looks like the color in the original book. Now, as for the corner, I just cut off the leather like it had been torn apart. I started with gluing the corners to understand where to place the main part, but before that, I drew the nails. The circle for the crystals I cut out from the same piece of leatherette, using which I had made the cover. The crystals, blue, green, light blue, yellow, red, and instead of the uncertain color, I took purple, just because I really liked it. I drew the black lines and started to glue all these. There I took the usual glue, because I almost ran out of the super glue, which I would need later, and I had only 3 tubes of it. It was enough to remind me how much I hated usual glue. Before gluing the small elements, I drew all the contours on them, because it's way more comfortable to do so on the table than on the book. But the exception were the grapes, because the small elements of the grapes are easier to paint when they are glued already. First went the shields. Because of the glue I used, I had to press it down with something. To make the figures lie even, I glued some pieces of leather under them, otherwise they would stick out in some parts of the circle. Here, as you may see, they are lifted a bit, but lie evenly. The crystals. The crystals I had were convex, that's why I made holes using a paper knife. So it helped to perfectly fit the crystals. I also did it with the rest of them. Just a few elements are left. First of all, it's not to fail the work messing up the title on the cover. To stay on the safe side, I made some kind of a stencil out of the printed paper and then drew the letters and painted them using black color. The second step is about bookmarks. And the third step is the back flyleaf. When everything was dry, I modified the bookmarks to make them look as in the picture, and took a lighter to protect the ends from becoming fluffy. That's it! Oh, not yet, I forgot to tell you what I had done with the back. I made this pocket, which can be thin and imperceptible, or maybe 1 centimeter thick if you put there something like tickets or photos, because it's adventure time! Love you this much! Don't miss your opportunity of adventures, and see you soon!